Hi everyone, this is Trisha. Today I thought I would share a project using some rectangle dies to create a unique look. This project uses only a couple of foliage and flower stamps. I love it because you can create some really interesting projects. Let me show you how I created this card. First, I marked off the margins using a ruler so I could make sure I wasn't going out off the edge of the card, because I'm going to cut this down to a 5.25 by 4-inch card. I'm also using the pencil to lightly sketch in where I want the rectangles to go. So I'm just taking my pencil and going right around the inside of that die. I did want to do the outside of the die because it was too big for this card. And then you'll see me now take my ruler, because I forgot to mark in the other margins. So I'm just marking them in so that my boxes don't go off the page. I also want to put the boxes a little wonky, so I placed them, as I was doing it, I placed them slanted. So one kind of goes to the left, one kind of goes to the right, and then one's up and down. I just think that adds just a little more interest instead of having them straight. I also like them straight across. Don't get me wrong, that's also a nice way to lay them out. I just wanted this to be a little bit different. So I did the left and the right side, and then I'm going to go in and do the middle. That way I didn't run out of space when I did the left one, and I could kind of fit that middle one in wherever I could fit it. And then I will off camera erase some of those lines so they're a little bit lighter. So now I'm just going to go in and start creating my flowers. So I'm taking the leaf stamp from the foliage set 2, and I'm going to ink it up with some pine green. This is a really cute, a really pretty leaf. It looks kind of like a eucalyptus leaf almost. And I kind of wanted it to look almost like it was at an angle. So I stamped it a couple times that way, and then I'm going to come in and stamp it a little bit to the right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up going outside of that box that I drew, which is okay because that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted them to go a little bit outside the box, not too much. And I'm then stamping it 2 or 3 times. As you see, I brought it in a little bit more so that you could really see these leaves as I was adding the water to them. And I kind of stamped this way because I'm going to throw some lilacs in there, and it just seemed like a good way to display them that was a little different. As you can see, I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go with those stamps. And then I'm going to go in with my brush and just start softening up those lines. Not a lot of water. I'm not using a ton of water here because I really like the look of that leaf. So I wanted to maintain the integrity of that stamp. So now I'm going to come in with the dots from the mini flower set, and I'm going to ink them up with the violet. As you see, I was showing you my marker, and I'm going to try to make these look like lilacs. So if you look at the stamp, the little mini stamp of these little dots, there's kind of like a point, and then it kind of goes into like a cone. So I really kind of started with the point and then kind of continued to do the stamping, so it was kind of going down towards the base. It gave a really cool look I thought it looked like a lilac, so that's what I'm going with. And then when you add the water, it'll really bring forth that is what I was going for, was a lilac type of a bush. You don't want to use a ton of water on these because you want to keep that, you want to keep the dots. You want to be able to see those. So I'm really just kind of using a little bit, and if I get a little bit too much, I'm just pulling them out to the sides. And again, you don't want to color this in completely. You want to jump your brush around so you're getting the color, but you're also leaving some of that white space because that's going to give you your 3D effect. I'm also using, you'll notice that on the 3 vines that I put down, I'm using an odd number of flowers in each of the boxes. So there's also 3 boxes, which is odd numbered, and then there's I think 5 flowers and then 3 flowers and then maybe another 5 flowers. We'll have to see when we get there. So now I'm taking the large vine from the new foliage set 3, and I'm going to ink this up with some olive green. I was trying to vary the colors as well, so it wasn't really flat. And I'm going to ink this and place it in the middle of that middle box. And I'm going to stamp it a few times. I usually just stamp using the top of that stamp instead of the whole thing, stamping the whole thing a few times. I just kind of do the top of it. And then I'm going to come in with my water and just soften up those edges, or soften up those leaves. Not leaves. It's not a word. And then I bring that bottom right down to the bottom of, I know you can't see it very well, but it's right down to the bottom of that rectangle. I'm taking the 3 hearts stamp, and that's in the new mini flower set. And I'm using some iris purple, which is actually pink, and I'm going to create some blooms with that. I'm really just taking it, sometimes I'll take it and make it go in a circle, sometimes I'll just go up and down, back and forth. They give you different looks. This is a really great stamp. I love it. It gives you some really good variation in color. I can't think of right now what kind of a flower it reminds me of, but it comes out really cool when you add the water to it. It makes it look really, it's a really pretty flower. And I thought that pink went really good with that olive green, whereas the purple and the pine green I think really went well together as well. Now we'll move on to the 3rd rectangle, and I am going to speed this up a little bit because, nope, I'm not going to speed it up yet. I lied. So we're going to create this one. We're going to use the pine green again, and this is from the foliage set 3. This is one of those vines that has one going to the left and one going to the right. I'm just using one, and I'm going to make it look kind of like a bush. So I'll stamp it to the left, and then I'll do a couple in the middle, and then I'll try to bring those vines right down to the bottom to create kind of like a branch at the bottom. I don't know if I want to try this one again. I probably will do it another one with some different leaves. Kind of reminded me of sometimes you see like pictures of flowers for, I guess, seeds or something like that. And they always look like they're in a box, and it's kind of a cool little depiction of what you'll get if you use the seeds. It's kind of what I was going for with these little rectangles or stamps. I notice a lot of like the USPS stamps have really cool designs when it comes to flowers. So now I'm going to take there's these 2 little, they look like vines. They're in the flower set 3. And I thought they were vines, but they're not. They're flowers. And I'm inking them up with some Prussian blue. And I just thought they came out so cool. I love the blue, but I also love the look of the stamp and how it's stamped out. And I'm gonna do 5 in this, like I said before. And then I'm just carefully inking up. I don't want to add too much water because I really want to, like I said, keep the integrity of that stamp. So I'm just adding just a little bit just to bring that blue really out into the foreground. Prussian blue is one of my favorite colors. And I just love how that comes out of that flower there. So now you'll notice that I'm going to start erasing those lines along with my margin lines because I don't need those any longer. Just make sure when you go to do this that you, as you see, I'm like brushing all of those. I didn't have my kneaded eraser. I only had my Mars plastic eraser, which does leave some, not as bad as a pencil, the back of a pencil, but it still leaves a lot of stuff behind. So just make sure, or your drawing or your painting is very dry before you go do that, or you're gonna smudge all of your work, and you don't want to do that. So now I'm gonna put this rectangle die back where I had it, and as you see, I'm using the brush tip of my marker. Now there's these little things that are in my die when they come together. They're nesting dies, and you have to cut them apart. And I didn't cut the little inside very well, so that's why you see there's like some spaces, which is not going to be a problem because I'm going to watercolor right through those, and I'm going to bring those lines together. And I don't know why it looks a little wonky on the screen. It's not in real life, I promise you. And I'm dropping paintbrushes and everything. So this is the only rectangle that I use that brush tip. The other ones I used the fine tip because there was just so much color here. I felt like I was trying to pick up a lot of color and trying to soften it out. I didn't want the whole box to be colored in. I just wanted it to be like along the sides. Almost like when you're doing a blending with like distress inks or anything like that and you're blending stuff. I wanted it to kind of look like I had blended it like that. But there was just too much color with that brush tip. So in the other two, I just used the other nib, and it worked out much better. I didn't have to work so hard to get it to blend and to try to soften out. If you've seen my other videos, there's one with a snow globe. Same thing. It took me a couple times before I actually like figured out how to do it without having to blend and blend and blend. And depending on your paper, it might not take it. It could pill up on you and stuff like that. So you want to do as little amount of blending as you can. Now I've drawn in a couple of spots there right between those flowers because that box would come right through there. And then I'm just blending out those bottoms. You'll see me come in with some clean clear water, and then you'll also see me come in with a paper towel a couple times if I felt it was just getting too yellowy, if that's a word. And I'm really obsessed with making these boxes lately. I love anything that watercolory that has some kind of a box image around it. I don't know why, I just love it. Here I am blotting up some of that color. So in order to do that, all you have to do is put some clean, clear water on what you want to pull up, let it sit for a second, and then use your paper towel to just pick up that color. And I'm just evening that line out so that it looks like it's more of a straight, solid line. And I'll just use a little bit of water to soften it up so it doesn't look like I drew it in. Adding a little color underneath those blooms. So now, as you see, Well, that's a little crazy. I'm speeding this up because it's the same process that I used on the first one to do the second and the third one. I didn't want to do it in real time because it's the same process. And you don't want to listen to me, we'll just talk through that. So I figured I would give you a break and speed it up. The third one I sped up even more. And you see, I got just as much color from the fine line as I did from the big brush line. But I just don't have to go over it as many times. I can just kind of add some water and go. Now, when you're pulling the color out of these lines, you want to be on the inside of the box with your paintbrush. And as you bring your water along that line, that color will start to come into the middle of the box. So you want that line is your ending point. You don't want that yellow to come out into the foreground. So that's why you want to keep the brush on the inside of the line. And I liked how they were a little wonky, but I think they looked so cool together, the three of them. And even here, I'm trying to blot up just a little bit of that color. Now this is the last one. And like I said, I sped it up even more. I'm looking, where do I want to put it? That looks good. And then I'll use my fine tip to trace that right out. And I wouldn't even worry about being too precise with this because you're going to watercolor it, so you can fix any mistakes that you make. And I'm careful not to go over those blooms. I want those blooms to look like they're overlapping the edge. And if you feel like you don't have enough color, you can always add a little bit of the color to your palette and then come in with your brush and add more where you want it. It's a little more controllable that way. Now here I got a little bit of the blue. I just went the opposite way. I just pulled it back up and it fixed it right away. Because that Prussian blue is a very strong color, so you are likely to get some in there if you touch it. So here I just added a little bit more from my palette. And then I'm just bringing it into the foreground a little bit and then blotting a little bit up so that I wanted those middles to be really white. Now this is a great thing. You could put a sentiment right there at the bottom or across the whole thing. I didn't want to cover them up. And then I didn't think that it had a lot of interest. I thought it just needed something else with all that white in the background to kind of make them come forward. So I'm using some manganese blue. And I'm just watercoloring a little bit in between the boxes and around them. I'm not going out too far. Just along the edge there. Just to make it look like there's some kind of a shadow or something. You know, are these on a wall maybe or something like that? And I felt like I got a little too much color there, so I added some, took some away, and then added some more. And I'll let it dry a little bit, and then I'll pull it back up with my paper towel. I didn't want it to be really strong. I just wanted it to be a hint of blue in the background. Just like I said, to add a little bit of interest. So what I did with this, now that this is almost complete, is I added Live, Laugh, and Love with some brownish gray. And I just wrote those words on the left-hand side. They reminded me of a stamp, so that's why I did that. But like I said, you could use a big greeting across it. You could use something up along the bottom of it. So many possibilities. This would make a great Mother's Day card, I think. And I cut it down with my stitched rectangles and attached it to a card base, and I matted it onto some Wild Dandelion Gina K Designs cardstock. I love Gina K Designs cardstock. I usually mount all of my stuff with that. And here I'm just signing and dating my project. So that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today. And as usual, I've linked a few other videos here in case you're interested. Please check out my blog for more information and a list of all the supplies I used. Hope to see you soon and have a great day.